Hey guys, welcome back to the Butterfly Effect podcast. It is part 4 of our Man of Medan analysis series. So let's just get straight into it, shall we? So, of course, we know that the characters have reconvened on in like a little building on the deck of the ship. I guess, you know what, just to go back to last week, mate. Should we just quickly remind everyone who was alive in our blind playthrough at this point?
So for me, everyone, granted Conrad escaped at the start, so he's basically missing, but I still had the other 4 alive.
Basically the same for me, only that Conrad was dead because I failed the QTE. Probably on the ladder, maybe on the bit where we jumping over the beams, but yeah, Conrad was definitely dead. And actually, saying that coming to mind, I think Fliss or someone sees his body at some point, because then when they reconvene, Fliss is I saw Conrad's body, and then Julia's absolutely devastated. So yeah, that's rang a bell actually. But yeah, I mean, finale, mate. I mean, I've got to say, not actually much happens until we do a little bit of walking around. Obviously, we jump up to and we get to the radio station. The radio area rather, and we can find bits and pieces about the ship, the ship's background, notes from officers and soldiers back home, etc. But we might as well just get straight into this radio sequence, mate. I mean, how did it play out for you?
Not that I knew the twist about what the Manchurian gold was. However, I don't know what came over me or what my logic was at the time, but I just didn't trust giving out the name. I know I should probably think, oh, coordinates, we need to get saved. I don't know if I thought, oh, this is something that I don't trust because this could be hallucinogenic itself, but I just didn't want to give out the coordinates or the name, one of the two. So yeah, I guess I sort of ignored the radio sequence actually. I didn't really dive into it, mate. How about yourself?
Interesting. I guess because obviously this was the second Supermassive game that I've ever played, obviously the first one being Until Dawn, I saw parallels of the whole radio scene of telling where you are. So I was very specific with details. So I told them the name of the ship. I tried to keep emotions in check so that, the information was given properly. So yeah, I straight up told them where he was. And obviously then the power cuts out, and you're then given the responsibility to go down and turn the power on in case, there's any more communication. But otherwise, yeah, I was very open and honest with them. We then get to play as Alex. And of course, there's a nice little nod from earlier on as well, because I think you can actually get an achievement here as well, where it's to do with Alex and Brad's relationship. I think it's called Medium Bro. And it's basically to have their relationship at a really good level. As Alex, you get to decide whether you want to be the one to go down or whether you're happy with Brad going down. What did you do there?
I basically was oh yeah, Brad, he's on a bit of a cool streak here. I'm gonna let Brad go down, and then obviously Julia wanted to follow. Before I passed it to what you did, I just wanted to say that I really didn't like Alex in this scene, because he goes to his brother, he's oh yeah, you're cool, yeah, you can totally do this. And then when Julia's I'm gonna go as well, he's no, what? You can't go. And it's just do you really I know you've just, engaged to this lady, but it almost to me felt like he valued Julia that much higher over Brad, that I don't get why there was no hesitation for Brad. I was Alex, that's a bit sucky, mate. What are you doing? But yeah, I think you had something different to me though, didn't you, mate?
Well, actually, thinking about it, because I know the two characters that got killed in my original playthrough, I actually did send Brad down. In this playthrough that I did go down as Alex. But yeah, I actually sent Brad down because it then triggers a scene after that where Brad, he basically works out that the fog is responsible, doesn't he? After you jump down from the ladder, he's oh yeah, I've worked out that I'm seeing stuff and you're not. Maybe it's this fog. and then conveniently you start seeing the fog everywhere you walk. Like, it's sort of like the game's way of saying, yes, like, this is right, sort of thing, which at the time, like we've said already, wasn't really a surprise to me.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where I'm glad it got explained when it did, because it's chapter 4, right? This is like the end of the game, and it took this long for it to spell it out, because if you're like us and you work out what the twist is, whether it's from Fliss in the ballroom getting fresh air, whether it's from seeing toxic signs with gas leaking from the storm in the prologue, you can gather what it is. And then even like in this exact chapter where they're having that reunion scene, I do find it is a bit long-winded and backpedaling when they're trying to work out what's going on, even though you as the player know. So it was fine. I was like so glad that the characters finally caught up to our knowledge as well, because I did find it quite tiring.
And you know what? You've said something there that I'll take like a little bit further, is that I feel like that's why I preferred the twist in Little Hope, if you get me, because it's the same in a movie. Like, I feel like that as the audience, we should be travelling with the characters in terms of like figuring things out. When the audience is ahead and you're watching the characters, you have to get a lot of things right in order to really up that tension and to really keep the audience invested. Whereas if you're put in their position, you can be trying to work things out, and I think it's just a bit more effective. And obviously, unless you're a genius, I feel like with the Little Hope twist, they did do it a little bit better, so that the vast majority of players were like, oh my god, it's, you know, we've been playing as the bus driver the whole time, you know. So yeah, I've got to say, I do agree, mate.
Yeah, and I do think it might be like, whether it's harsh me saying this, but sloppier storytelling, having just a character explain what's going on rather than us experience it, whether we see the broken crate with like fresh sort of gas coming out of it, whatever it is. But like, I just feel having the smart character explain it is just a little on the weaker side as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, obviously once we go down into the engine room, we're able to turn the power back on. And then I believe, at least with me, it still stays with Brad and Julia, and you see the rebreather lying there. I mean, did you take the rebreather, lad?
I did, because the whole scene's like Olsen stabbing Danny, right? So like clearly, like you find out that these pirates are like proper on a mad one. They haven't sussed it out yet. They're like hallucinating something rotten. They probably haven't got enough fresh air either, while you guys recently just have, so you're, you know, a lot more on your toes than these guys. But yeah, I did go for the rebreather. Unfortunately for me though, mate, we know what happens after the rebreather scene when you claim it. It triggers my favourite scenes, which are the heartbeat sequences when Olsen comes to find you. And of course, we know me. I just, for whatever reason, I can't fucking do them. So, and I will add as well, that one goes on for quite some time. I'm pretty sure I failed pretty early, but I have seen repeat playthroughs. And you have to be like getting the timings right for a solid time, you know, it just goes and goes and goes. But either way, I failed, so although I escaped, and I ended up in a next sequence, which, you know, we'll get into in a minute, I had to leave the rebreather behind, unfortunately. But, yeah, you know, a bit sucky, but oh well, such is life. How about you?
I've got to admit, in my first playthrough, I actually can't remember. I can't remember whether I took it or not. Not that it necessarily would have mattered either way for what happens, you know, a scene later. But in this one, I did take it. And yeah, like you say, the heartbeat sequences. You know what? I've literally just thought of this on the spot, because when I do the heartbeat sequences, I like zone in so much on the actual sequence itself with like the tapping the A button. I don't actually look at like the clips, you know, of what's actually happening. Like, presumably it's like Olsen walking down the corridor, you know, banging the walls and stuff. But like, I don't know, like, is it like a slight criticism? I'm not sure, because it sort of takes away the jeopardy. Like, I'm not actually like being able to focus on like what's happening in the actual game, because I'm like so focused on the mini game. I don't know what your thinking is on that, mate. It's literally just like an off the cuff remark, really.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously these games throw all sorts of variety at us in their little mini games, right? Whether it's Until Dawn's Don't Move, whether it's the Quarry, hold your breath. Uh, I I don't know if it's almost a harsh comment from me with the DPA games, but I dislike the heart sequence things because I'm less good at them. Whether that's just myself, like struggling with the timings, but I do find you have to get it right in the center. There are times where I swear down, I get it, I align the line with the square, and it still doesn't count. So I don't know, like whether it's like glitchiness or just clunkiness, or if it's just me not being able to do them. But yeah, like I've never been a fan of them, and it's unfortunate for me because I kill a lot of characters off from these sequences, and we keep seeing them back. We've had 4 repeat games with the same mini game. Admittedly, I do better at some games, than others with this, but I'm just crying out for a new fucking mini game. I had a torrid time, especially in the Devil in Me, that I just like Directive 8020. Either better drop them, ease them up, or have a different mini game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to slightly backtrack on what I said a little bit now, because even thinking, like the Quarry, where they introduced the like hold your breath thing, I didn't think that was difficult at all. You're literally just holding the button until the bar drops to like near the bottom. So like, which to be fair, is good because you're able to watch the drama unfold. So that sort of is a box ticked for what I was saying before. But then the difficulty's not there. So to be fair, it must be quite a challenge to be able to, supplement the player with like these cutscenes that have got tension and such, but also be able to keep them focused on, like the mini game that they're putting forward, and obviously to keep it different from tapping buttons for other QTEs and such. But yeah, I mean, let's roll on, mate. We then have the showdown with Junior. Take it away, mate. What happened?
So yeah, I would have had Brad and Julia, and yeah, I mean, obviously the guy's freaking out. It's sad to see because, like, clearly, like, he sees you as something else. He says, "Stop changing." I actually felt for this guy. I always saw him as like, the baby pirate of the group who like probably could turn a new leaf. But yeah, like I did well with the dialogues, got through all of them all right. I did my best. But yeah, obviously you later learn that you need the rebreather to keep him alive because I failed those heartbeat sequences. I didn't have it, so he put the gun to his head. Now, obviously, like he's not one of the main 5, so it would have been nice to have him alive. But still, yeah, like I lost Junior here, unfortunately. But luckily, I retained my, the playable characters. How about yourself?
Well, I mean, I lost Julia. No, sorry, I lost Junior and Brad here because I think in this moment you're playing as Julia, and yeah, like it was the dialogue bit, and I think I passed the first one, and then what was the second one? I think I turned around and just said to him, "Hey, there is no mist," like trying to bullshit my way out of it. And he just shot me straight in the head, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" So yeah, like, obviously, Brad and Conrad died in my playthrough, which, like I said at the beginning of this series, is hilarious because like I knew what the twist was, and yet I still managed to get 2 characters killed. But there you go. Now, of course, because Conrad was dead in my playthrough and he escaped in your playthrough, we missed out a chapter, mate. Was it called Olsen? Did you say?
Yeah, we did.
And obviously, I mean, I actually quite like this scene. I wish it was in my original playthrough, but obviously it can play out, doesn't it? Where like you're in this room with Olsen, he's banging against the wall, and you're sort of trying to like reason with him, and the next thing you know, all this water comes in. You've got QTEs and fights, and do you know what I mean? Like because I didn't have this in my original playthrough. Again, it was just like a really welcome thing that this was even a possibility, and actually can bring about one of like the most gruesome deaths, arguably in like the entire DPA, but certainly in Medan, which is, I think if Conrad's there, he can just get crushed in half by the door, doesn't he? And you can actually lose the distributor cap as a result. So, speaking from your perspective, mate, who obviously had Conrad escaped, is there a part of you that wished that Conrad did actually stay in the game and get on the ship, because then you'd have had the Sailor Girl sequence and obviously the chase up to the top of the ship and possibly this scene as well?
Yeah, like obviously long-time guest, our good friend Anya was laughing at me because she was like, "Oh, Conrad gets the best scenes with the Sailor Girl." And obviously there's this one as well, and I know like Brad can take his place, maybe someone else as well, I might be wrong on that front. But yeah, it probably is like the coolest part about the final quarter of the game. So it does suck that we missed it. I do think you have to like kill someone off, and it depends on where Alex is. You know, there are a few variables you need in your favor. But yeah, obviously with Conrad out my game with the escapes, you know, it did feel a little bit barren in parts. You know, I missed out certain key scenes, so like I probably had quite a short game compared to most people probably. So yeah, like I would have really liked to have had the scene, but like you say, it is cool that you look back at the game and you look on YouTube, and then there's all these absolute bonus scenes that you didn't know existed, and it makes you love the game because that is a key element of why we like these games, right? No one gets the same ending, or not many people do. You compare your blind playthrough with your friends, and that's just what's really thrilling. If you had that ending and I didn't, we could have rounded up, had a conversation like, wow, what? Like, you can have a fight scene with Olsen while the room's flooded? What? So, like, I actually really like that. And I tell you what, whenever I see someone play that scene, it looks like a really tricky fight scene. A lot of people end up killing that person off or losing the fight to Olsen there. I mean, this might be a criticism, but the big thing I hear is that you've got to like hold square rather than tap it or something, or you've got to tap it rather than press it once.
Right.
And it's not necessarily clear. So I do know, like, for example, if you look at like PewDiePie's gameplay, he will kill Conrad off there, and I know a lot of people had the same thing. So a lot of people did criticize sort of like the button displays on the screen at this section. But yeah, otherwise, you know, like, I'm proud of my blind playthrough. It's the one I got. But yeah, would have been cool to have had that scene. But oh well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll move forward because we can cut back to, and this is what we'd have both got, mate, with Alex. And I think that obviously for us, Brad and Julia went down to the engine room, but then Alex and Fliss would have been upstairs. So I think in our playthrough, Alex and Fliss would have then gone down together, if I'm thinking right. And there's like a little heartbeat sequence again where you can hide from Olsen, and he's flipping out, and you can ultimately follow him down the corridor, and he then has a heart attack and dies. And it of course then brings about this scene where you see like these rats and there's like QTEs, and again, distributor cap could get destroyed here, which I guess looking back for me was a hugely significant QTE, because if I failed that QTE, and because I told on the radio the name of the ship, then they'd have been stuck on the ship, and then I'd have got the dark ending where they all got gunned down. So hugely significant actually, that bit. Of course then Alex starts flipping out, doesn't he? Starting to see various things. He opens the door and there's like the two-headed monster, which at this point, because of what Brad said, like, we know something's fishy. We know that it's probably going to be Fliss or another character. It seems me pointless asking, mate, but did you start to stab yourself or start to stab the creature as Alex?
Nah, like, yeah, because, like, we called the thing, and then obviously there's someone in front of you, isn't it? And I knew it was Fliss from the get-go, right? Because, like, only, like, 2 minutes back, Fliss is like, oh, I'll find another way around and catch up to you. So it's perfectly logical that the two-headed monster probably is Fliss, right? And the game does it multiple times where it pulls the stunt in front of you, where it has someone there who's, like, looks like someone else, but it's actually your mate. Whether it's Conrad with the, you know, like, the monster ended up being Fliss, whether it's Brad and Fliss reuniting in the ballroom where one of them could be hallucinating. It happens multiple times. So, yeah, I just was like, nah, I'm not gonna... There isn't a rat coming out of my chest. I'm not going to stab myself.
Of course. And I mean, pretty much, mate, that is the end of the game. We see them walk out to the top deck. They give one another a hug. I suppose the best thing we can go into now is just to talk about the amount of endings that this game can throw up. Because as we've mentioned already, if you've got the distributor cap, you can get onto the Duke of Milan, you can then go off. I mean, of course, I'll come back to you and what your ending had. Take it away, mate.
Of course, so for my ending, obviously, we all know that Conrad wasn't there for me. I managed to save the distributor cap, so I had that. And I had everyone alive, you know. I still had Brad, Julia, Alex, and Bliss alive. So as they got the distributor cap, they went on, and I didn't give out the coordinates. So basically, as you say, that shows you how significant the distributor cap is. I could have just abandoned them on the ship if I broke that because I didn't call for help. Meaning that the guys escaped on the Duke of Milan. As Julia didn't, you know, have alcohol, she was fine. She didn't get a dark ending, which was cool. Unfortunately for me, though, I had that super dark twist, right? Where Conrad, comes in to save the group. Now, one thing that is really interesting is because I saved the distributor cap, the guys were free to go on the Duke of Milan. If I hadn't, Conrad would have found the group and they all would have reunited and it would have been fine. So by doing something good, something negative actually happened for me. The group had already left. Conrad came on the ship. And yeah, I had that really dark ending with Conrad where he goes on to find the guys. He doesn't know about the Manchurian gold hallucinogenic, you know, bioweapon twist here. So yeah, he just goes on a ship all lonely and abandoned. And it's just really dark where he locks himself in the meds cabinet and he freaks out. He's not exactly dead, but yeah, I just got a bit of an alternate ending. But weirdly though, mate, I really liked that. It was just such a cool dark ending twist. It felt very Black Mirror-esque. What ending did you get, and what are your thoughts on my one?
Yeah, I really like your one. So out of interest then, so did that count as that you didn't keep them all alive then? I imagine so. But...
It did. So like, obviously, gameplay-wise, I had all 5 alive, but Conrad is kind of like indeterminate. His status would be marked down as indeterminate ending.
Oh right, so would you have got the achievement then to keep all the characters alive, or?
Oh yeah, I did. I got the all characters survived achievement, but I just obviously Conrad just got a bit of a dark, cool, indeterminate ending.
Oh right, well obviously the only difference with mine being is obviously that Alex, Julia, and Fliss all got onto the Duke of Milan and sailed off into the sunset. And then of course for me, it then had the helicopter come down because obviously I told the military about the coordinates, and you get these 2 soldiers that come out and they start exploring the ship, and then Danny, who I thought was dead because after Olsen stabbed him, he then starts attacking them because obviously he's got the effects of the Manchurian gold. So seeing that, you think, oh damn, like you've just got 2 military people killed. But obviously with future playthroughs, you know that them military people are there to kill you, really, because they don't want you knowing about the whole World War II covert operation with the Manchurian gold. So looking back on it, I'm sort of like, it doesn't actually matter that they get killed, really.
No, I completely get you. It's really cool that happened though, and I think it's fair to say, mate, as we played Man of Medan originally before. Yeah, that was a good game. I always rated it 6 out of 10 and whatnot, but the more I talk about it, the more I analyse the actual branching of the game. It is so flipping good. They're even doing this analysis. My opinions of this game have completely risen, to be honest, and that is just exemplified by the sheer amount of endings we can get. We've already gone over some of them. About the variables, what happens if Conrad stays or escapes. The variables about whether you save the distributor cap or it gets destroyed. The variables between whether you tell the military the ship's name and your coordinates or you don't. You can get, we mention it a lot on the channel, Jack. There's that dark ending that you so love, right?
Yeah.
That is just incredible that you can have all 5 characters survive at the end with Junior, and then because you've given the coordinates out, they can just come and just gun you down. That is just so dark, but I love that. I was telling you as well about the secret ending where you can kill all the characters before you even make it outside, and Olsen's still alive, and then you get a really cool ending with Olsen alive on the ship where his eyes glow red. We never knew about that ending, until about an hour ago. That is just cool. There's so many endings. I just wanted to get your opinion on that.
And I'm gonna definitely look that one up on YouTube, and I guess there's like a little spoiler for anyone that's sort of got this far into the series, but we are going to make a future video about, because we know that there are added scenes to Medan as well. I think there's like an added ending, isn't there? We are going to do a video in the future where we react to that as well, because I've not seen it. I don't think Liam's seen it. So it'll just be really good to see. Also, I'd want to know how you get to that point as well. I think that'll be really interesting. So yeah, look out for that in the future, guys. Unless there's anything else to cover, mate, did we want to wrap up and just sort of talk about our general feelings about Medan now that we've gone through?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I mean,
yeah.
Honestly, thinking about like the DPA ranking, probably going to be a bit unfair to say this because I've got to give Little Hope another throw of the dice. I'd say it's probably gone up to 3rd place, and I've got to say that I do love the branching, and it's superb the way like I've said before, you can stow certain items, the way the characters rotate, there's the different endings that we've literally just gone over. I feel like the only thing that necessarily pulls it back though is the story elements, i.e. the twist being too obvious, pacing, the fact that the 50% is like you boarding the Medan, like the 40-45% mark. Do you know what I mean? It feels like you needed to get there a bit more quickly, and I feel like that's ultimately what holds it back from, say, House of Ashes, because obviously you compare it to, that was what 2nd place was for me. House of Ashes, it just had that big bombastic ending. I love the villains, whole alien vibe and such, but I've got to say that it has overtaken Little Hope at this point in my mind. Wasn't it already past Little Hope in your ranking? Wasn't it?
It was. Obviously, we had that debate, so I don't know if that means I won that debate. No, I'm kidding. But
technically you have. I mean, for now at least, you have.
Yeah, it's one of those ones though where I can't wait to look at Little Hope as well, which we will do in the future, guys. So look out for that one, and it might be that our feelings change still. It's interesting. I said Man of Medan was 3rd. It's interesting because I want to look back at House of Ashes and The Devil in Me, but it might pip into silver medal territory here.
Wow.
Which I had House of Ashes up there first, but it's weird. House of Ashes has the extra characters. It has kind of like the cool atmosphere. Man of Medan, like you say, it does have those negatives which do make me kind of calm down a little bit. I guess like branching, Man of Medan might actually be the best one. But it does have its flaws. Like you say, the pacing, like the start is a little bit tedious. Like I really get tired of that scuba diving section. It is frustrating when they're trying to work out what the twist is when I had already worked it out, and whenever you do a replay you've got to do the same as well. So I find Alex borderline unbearable as well. I'm not a fan of Alex as a character at all. But otherwise though, it was really fun to look back at Man of Medan. Obviously this did originate from a poll, so thank you to everyone who voted Man of Medan, because it's actually been such a pleasure looking back at it, and my opinion certainly has swayed, and in a positive light for that matter as well.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, thank you for everyone that's watched with us for this series. It's been really good going back over Medan, and as Liam said, we will cover Little Hope in the future as well, and Hidden Agenda at some point. And unless there's any final few comments, mate, we'll wrap it up.
Good from me. Thank you very much for joining, guys. We'll see you soon.
Good stuff. Take care, guys.